I am in that part of my book where the book is a mess. And I'm like, do I have too much of this, too little of that? Where am I going with it? What am I doing? I'm kind of past the beginning and I'm just feeling like I'm sitting in the middle of chaos. Is that you too? Because I have been there more times than I can count. I've published a lot of books in a lot of countries, but that doesn't mean that everything I write just goes smoothly from start to finish. I still get to like the middle of the book and I'm thinking, I don't even know where this is going. It feels like I'm trying to corral a whole herd of cats inside of a baby playpen. Like everything's going crazy. So in this video, I've got some tips about how to know what's going wrong with your book and then how to fix it. So that then you can kind of pull yourself out of that mess and get the book back on track. I talk a lot in my videos about listening to your gut, and that's a really critical skill to have. You develop that skill of knowing from a gut instinct whether the book is going wrong or going right by reading a ton of really good books, because that sort of inherent sense of story just gets right into your head and you develop this instinct for where the book should go and where it shouldn't go. You may not know how to fix it, but you can feel it in your gut. So I want you to read your book and then step back and try to be as much of an outsider about it as you possibly can. I know, I love my books too. It's hard to be an outsider, but try. And I want you to think about, how do I feel right now? I mean, I know insecure and worried about the book and everybody's going to hate it, all of those things. We're taking that out of the equation right now. How do you feel about the story? Does it feel disjointed? Does it feel chaotic? Does it feel flat? If it's feeling disjointed, then what is probably happening is you are not having an emotional connection between your scenes. I have a video that dives into this really deeply and shows you how this happens in a scene in Ashley Elston's First Sly Wins. It's all about the character taking an action, the reaction to that action, and the emotional impact. What I see most people missing is that emotional reaction. Every action that we take as human beings in our lives has an emotional impact on us. You don't think so, right? Well, think about it. You go to the fridge, you open it up, you take out an eclair like I did today for lunch. There's an emotional impact. You're like, okay, that was really, really good, but I'm going to need to do some extra exercises and workouts this week. Or you go to get the mail and at the same time you're stressed because you didn't get your video recorded or you didn't write your book. So there's this emotional impact with the choices that you make throughout the day. In a book, the stakes are higher because you've got a plot going on. You've got something that the character wants to achieve. So every action that they take, even if that's just crossing the room to talk to another character, has an emotional impact on them. They get closer to that character. Maybe they're seeing the discomfort in that character's face, or maybe they're realizing that character's lying to them. There is an impact. All right, I want you to go back and look at each individual chapter or scene. Look at the bigger picture as a whole and say, okay, what was the emotional impact on my character of what just happened? Like, did they just lose their job? Well, what's the emotional impact? I can't provide for my family. I'm a failure. I'm terrified for the future. All of those things. Whatever happened to your character, whatever action your character took in that scene, what is the emotional impact on them? Then go down to a more micro level. A scene is made up of a million micro actions. Can you look at each of those individual micro actions and see the emotional impact on the character? It should get progressively deeper and richer, forcing them to face their inner fears and doubts and insecurities. I've done a lot of videos on characters and deep emotional wounds and how everything in the book kind of forces them to face those. If you look at the books you're reading or writing right now, how is this plot affecting this character and all of those fears and insecurities that they have? Because that's what a book does. It forces the character to grow by putting them in the exact situation that makes them face their fears. And every single scene should make them face those fears a little bit more and a little bit more and a little bit more, so that the emotional impact is increasing. That's what keeps the book from feeling disjointed, because there is a connector to it. There's an emotional connector that's bringing you forward with each individual scene and then getting to that climax of the book, the black moment, and all of that. And if those are new terms to you, check out my Writer's Bootcamp, because I have a whole 12-week course that talks about each of the parts of a story and how you can put them all together. That emotional connection is what puts a book together and keeps it from feeling like it's 25 separate parts. Maybe your problem isn't that it's feeling disjointed. Maybe it's feeling like chaos, like I've got all these cats in a playpen, right? That's my book right now. Too many cats, and I don't know what to do with them on. What that usually is a sign of is too many plots. You really want to keep the reader intrigued, so you start adding in this and this and this, because you've probably heard the advice somewhere, which I heard back early in my career. When you're kind of stuck in your book, throw another bear in the boat. And that creates a ton of plot threads that don't necessarily need to be there. Now, I do like the idea of throwing another bear in the boat. That's essentially adding more conflict. But when you're adding too many plots, you're not necessarily adding more conflict, you're adding more directions for the book to go. The conflict that you're adding should all relate back to the main plot. You have one overarching plot for the entire book, and the other conflicts that come along relate to that. For example, if your character has to go find their missing child, if the conflicts that you put in there is that their job is in jeopardy, or their mom disappears, or their dad is dying, those are all conflicts that get in the way of the main plot because she wants to go and rescue her child, but she doesn't want to, leave her dad alone when he's dying, or she's got to go find her mom too, or if she leaves, she's going to lose her job. All of those things feed into the main plot. And so that creates a plot that is less chaotic and has more threads that tie together. So if you're looking at your scenes and your chapters, you need to say, does this tie into this main plot? How does this relate to that? Or am I kind of sending my character in too many directions? Am I having too many things going on? How does it impact what's happening to my one main character? With my book right now, I added this other character to the book and I was thinking, oh, I'm going to do this and this and this. And then I realized it didn't tie back to my main character. So I sat back down with it and I said, how can I take these two other characters that are outside of my main character's world and make a plot that ties back into her and also makes her job that much harder? That's what I'm going to do. So I looked at these two characters that I just added that had their own sort of thing going. And I said, all right, I'm going to revisit this. How can I take what's going on with them and tie it even tighter back to my main character? But how can I also make that more of a conflict for what she's trying to do? So now it's not just that they're working with her. The fact of them working with her is going to become a roadblock for her, and that's going to get in the way of her biggest goal. Doing that ties it all together, sort of like an interlocking puzzle. You've got to look at every thread you have in your book and think about, how can I knit this all together into one? That's what keeps that chaos from just going out of control and makes it become more cohesive and more fluid. The third thing that could be happening is you're reading your book and thinking, this feels really flat and boring or not emotionally engaging. I don't care about these characters that much, or I'm not feeling anything. I'm not feeling emotional when I read this scene, or I'm not feeling happy or sad or mad. If you're feeling flat, or a really clear sign is if you're skipping parts of your book when you're rereading it, then you're missing that emotional impact. You're missing that thing that makes the reader go, oh man, I really hope it works out for them, or oh, I love that character so much. This is the hardest one to fix, and the one that took me the longest to figure out, because a flat book is one that doesn't have you in it. And to put you in it, you have to go inside here and here and here and all of the crap that is in your own head and heart. And we all have all those insecurities and doubts and all those things about, do they like me? Do they hate me? Is this going to suck? Am I going to fail? Am I terrible? All of those thoughts that everybody has every single day. Those are the things you need to tap into and put your characters through. It's hard because in order to write it effectively and believably, it has to come from your heart. I'm not saying that your characters have to have the same issues as you. They have to have the same emotional complexity. So you want to tap into the doubts and fears and insecurities and failures and all of those things that you have and put that with your character. It takes a micro and a macro level. You look at the entire scene and think, okay, what do I want for the emotional payoff to be for this scene? Do I want this character to fail and really feel like they should give up? Or do I want this character to have a tiny bit of success and then feel rejected? What do I want for the emotional payoff? And then you look down at the micro level with those micro actions. How does each of these actions get them closer to that emotional payoff? I have a scene that I dissected from start to finish on this video right here. And this character is somebody that is just kind of taking a slight step out of his comfort zone. And as he does that in that scene, he gets more and more successful at it and starts to think, maybe I can take this risk. Maybe I'm not a failure. Maybe I'm not this terrible person. And then some conflict comes and reminds him that he's not as evolved as he thought he was. And boom, he's taken a step back, 2 steps forward emotionally, 1 step back. So he's had a little bit of a success, but some failure too. And so the emotional impact on him is that he's still guarded, he's still kind of holding back, but he has a tiny bit of hope. He's had like a peek at what he could possibly have if he grows and changes. And I go into detail on how every word does that in that scene, in that video there, because I want you to see how you can take one paragraph, one sentence, one word, and change everything and add that emotional depth to your scene and your chapters and really make your character grow and change from beginning to end. It's that internal goal, motivation, and conflict that really matters with the characters. The external is fun and easy to write. It's the car chases and the bad guys and all of that. That's really fun and easy. It's the internal that is the hard part that really requires going deep within yourself in order to be an effective, powerful writer. And you absolutely can do it. I know it's hard. I know you're going to feel like you're just exposing your whole inner soul on the page, but that's part of what being a great writer is. When you read books that do that well, take note of them. How did you feel as you read those? How did that create a sense of commonality, a sense of a bond between you and the characters? Because that's what you're trying to create on the page. So tell me in the comments, what are you struggling with? Are you feeling disjointed, chaotic, flat? Are you feeling something else when you reread your book? Because I'm happy to address that in a future video and talk about it so that I can help you take it from where it was to where it can be. I also have a video on internal goal, motivation, and conflict, which is really key to creating that sort of cohesive, engaging, really compelling book. So check that out. And in the meantime, don't forget to subscribe and share, because if you're having this problem, I guarantee other writers are. And I will see you on the other side of the page.